Welcome everyone to the 77th Celebrity Synastry chart reading, where I will be looking into Perrie Edwards and Zayn Malik. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Madeline and it is so nice to meet you. For those new and returning, I take notes on a Synastry chart looking at the personal planets, signs, aspects, and of birth times available house overlays. I share these notes and add my extra insights and interpretations along the way. So if that sounds good to you, subscribe and click the bell to join us weekly, and let's get into it. So starting off with the sun, we have Perrie's sun in Cancer and Zayn's sun in Capricorn. These are polarity sister signs. They are opposites that appreciate their differences, and it's an overall secure relationship. Perrie's sun overlaid in Zayn's 5th house. They have creative and fun dates, and Zayn enjoys the adoration from Perrie. Zayn has a great love for Perrie, and they have a desire to have children together. I mean, they were pretty serious. I mean, they were engaged and everything. So as far as we knew, this could definitely be a possibility. Perrie defines beauty according to Zayn, and Perrie may be overlooking Zayn's flaws. Characterized by luck and pleasure, and Perrie sees Zayn as a source of pleasure. Zayn's sun overlaid in Perrie's 1st house. Zayn really likes Perrie and marriage is possible. So already we're seeing a lot more like serious domestic elements, so interesting. Perrie is energized by Zayn, and Zayn is a light in Perrie's life. They both feel positive about the other, and they both feel familiar with each other. They both boost the other's self-esteem. As we saw before, they both seem to really admire each other, particularly on Perrie's end, very putting Zayn on a pedestal. Zayn feels like Perrie really gets him, and they bring out the best in each other. Zayn feels he can be himself around Perrie, and Perrie appreciates the admiration she gets from Zayn. So they both seem to admire each other and really appreciate that the other does that. Their suns are opposite to each other, so they have the potential to complement each other. I mean, in the sense of being complementary, but also, literally complementing each other as well. They are intrigued by each other, and opposites attract here. Arguments are related to the individual ego, and they need to learn how to accept each other's differences. I feel like this wouldn't be a particular problem on Perrie's end anyway, because we did see how she overlooks Zayn's flaws. So I think on her end, this wouldn't be a big deal to accept the differences that they do have. Perrie's sun sextile Zayn's moon. It's an easy friendship and a fulfilling relationship, which we did kind of see earlier with it being a secure relationship, so that's there. There's natural compatibility, and they are cooperative with each other. So I'm glad that we're seeing yes, they are opposites, but at the same time, we are seeing they actually do want to cooperate with each other and kind of do overlook those sort of differences, it seems like. Zayn trusts Perrie's wisdom, and Perrie depends on Zayn's support. Perrie's sun opposites Zayn's Mercury. They have a great intellectual relationship, and misunderstandings occur. Perrie finds Zayn too analytical, and they are not good long term. I hate seeing this, considering we saw the earlier factors, they want to have children together and marriage is possible. I mean, it's realistic. I guess you could say that. Zayn is understanding of Perrie, and Zayn may feel misunderstood. We did see that Perrie really gets Zayn, so potentially it is only in some other areas where he may feel misunderstood. Perrie may feel threatened and insignificant, and they communicate well besides differing views. Zayn sees Perrie as self-centered, and Perrie sees Zayn as too rational. Need to have a level of emotional detachment for marriage. Perrie's sun conjunct Zayn's Mars. They respect each other and they energize each other, which we did see earlier, how I believe that Perrie is energized by this relationship. They both see the other as their type, which we did see again for Perrie defining beauty according to Zayn, so that is there. So far, a lot of sort of focus on Perrie, if that makes sense. I feel like she seems to, thus far, a bit more invested in this relationship. We seem to be seeing a lot more on how she feels a lot more about her sort of presence in the relationship rather than Zayn. Hopefully this changes, maybe just the way I interpret this chart, hopefully. Perrie sees Zayn as too defensive, and they challenge and frustrate each other. Zayn sees Perrie as too judgmental. So There is definitely something where Zayn doesn't feel like, Perrie quite gets him and may make him feel misunderstood. Perrie's Sun squares Zayn's Jupiter. They have different values and they may overindulge each other. Excess is from good intention, and Zayn has the ability to cheer up Perrie, which we did see how Zayn is like a sort of light in Perrie's life, so that is nice. They have a strong desire to make each other happy, which I do see. I feel like it's pretty reflected in this relationship. They both may expect too much from the relationship. That's not great. Both encourage the other to self-indulge and be impractical. Perrie's Sun opposite Zayn's Uranus. Separation occurs, not surprisingly so. I mean, they are both touring musicians. It's not even, and one was in one direction. Like, as far as I know, I don't believe Little Mix toured as much. Maybe they did as much as One Direction, because they were pretty much like on the road 24/7. So I mean, both touring musicians anyway, like separation will occur. It's an exciting relationship and the relationship starts quickly. Perrie finds Zayn to be insensitive. I feel like potentially she could interpret, Zayn being as a bit more insensitive anyway, because we did see, he is a bit more defensive and could be a bit more sort of like rational and like analytical and all of that. So potentially like insensitive in terms of like to her feelings potentially. Perrie feels burdened and Zayn will likely feel trapped by Perrie over time. That's not great, is it? Considering how he ended things really. I don't believe the specific details of their relationship ever came out, or like at least how it ended. Like as far as I know, the public is just privy to how Zayn, ended things over a text message. I don't believe we ever got like, what was in the text message or like why exactly they ended things or Zayn broke it off. Perrie's Sun opposite Zayn's Neptune. There are misunderstandings we're seeing again, and Perrie has a lack of trust. There's delusion and deception. I mean, in a way, you could see the way Zayn ended things as being a bit more delusion and deception, because I think with that, Perrie was a bit blindsided. So I feel like the nature of that, towards the end of the relationship in particular, I feel like there would definitely be an element of delusion and deception from Zayn's end. Zayn promises more than fulfills. I mean, literally engaging to someone then ending it. They both need to be clear with each other, and Perrie believes Zayn is her soulmate. This is sad. This whole aspect is just it's very sad, isn't it? Perrie's Sun trine Zayn's Pluto. It's transformative and a productive relationship in a sense. Yeah, productive. I mean, they both were very productive as individuals, so I'm sure together they would have been the same way. They are fascinated with each other and they both want to get to know each other deeply. Yeah, there's a real desire of like, wanting to actually be together, make each other happy and like get to know each other. There really is that element. And they do seem to be quite fascinated with each other, particularly on Perrie's end of Zayn. Zayn inspires Perrie to dramatically transform herself. Zayn's Sun opposite Perrie's Mercury. This is a repeated aspect, just inverted. So everything from before is further emphasized, but also Zayn finds Perrie too analytical and Perrie is understanding of Zayn. Perrie may feel misunderstood and Zayn may feel threatened and insignificant. Perrie sees Zayn as self-centered and Zayn sees Perrie as too rational. Zayn's Sun conjunct Perrie's Uranus. They meet each other suddenly. We did see earlier the same thing, how the relationship begins suddenly, so adds up. They are separated at key moments. This is also repeated. They need to embrace spontaneity and the relationship is outside of tradition. I mean, in many ways, literally being touring artists, that is pretty unconventional. The whole sort of separation thing, I feel like is pretty untraditional, like we're traveling a lot. But also you could see, the whole race thing as well. They both come from different cultures or ethnicities, I should say, and everything. So that I feel like would be a bit more outside of tradition, particularly since they're both, British. That is definitely a sort of big factor in Britain, as far as I know. That can definitely be outside of tradition there. Zayn is willing to support Perrie's desires. So I assume this would have to be like if she, with her music career and everything. Zayn wants more stability and when both were looking for something different, which I'm pretty sure they did meet on the X Factor. I feel like they did, which kind of would add up because they are going there for a completely different life, aren't they? Zayn triggers Perrie to explore her individuality. Interesting. So this is repeated where Perrie is changing herself because of Zayn, or is inspired. Zayn is attracted to Perrie's unconventional qualities, and Perrie challenges Zayn to be more unconventional. Zayn's sun conjunct Perrie's Neptune. It's a very spiritual relationship, and Zayn is fascinated by Perrie, again with the fascination of each other, intuitive communication and understanding, and Perrie is attracted to Zayn's straightforward nature, which I feel like could be a bit of a love-hate thing, because we did see, like, you know, I feel like being straightforward kind of goes hand in hand with being a bit more like analytical and rational. Those are pretty common to find with each other in people. So potentially it could be a love-hate thing where potentially she does really like it, but also it does frustrate her. Both need to be careful to not confuse reality and illusions. I feel like this could mean a lot for these two. I mean, first of all, we did see the whole delusion and deception thing. So that clearly seems to be an element where there is a bit of murky lines between what is real, what is not, what is deception, what is a delusion of theirs, an illusion of theirs. But you could also see this as, I feel like, the whole relationship with fame. I'm sure particularly like with their, them being in the tabloids a lot, I feel like there would definitely be a sort of murky line between, what is actually happening, what is happening in the media and everything about the other, because they're not always together. So I feel like they wouldn't, they would definitely be looking at like what's happening in the media with the other. And obviously with that comes truth, but also comes, fake stories and everything. So I'm sure this would definitely be an issue. I wouldn't be surprised if it was, as they are, but this clearly seems to be something that impacts them more. This relationship boosts Zayn's intuitiveness. So we did see how it was a bit more of a transformative relationship. I feel like it's a bit more transformative in after they finish, it seems like it. Zayn's sun sextile Perrie's Pluto. They have a strong connection and they are more powerful together. They are drawn to each other in a magnetic way. I definitely see this, and they should comfortably share secrets. Now for the intermission. This video is brought to you by me, my Etsy store, Adeline the Astrologer. If you ever watch this and think, hey, I would like her to read my Synastry chart, well, I will. I do personalized Synastry readings on my Etsy store, both basic and detailed. The basic one is very simple to understand. It's not overwhelming at all. It's pretty good for those that are beginners to astrology, just getting the head around astrology, or just as a fun gift idea. The detailed one is just like what I do on my channel, just a lot of insight and interpretation on your chart. So if you are interested in that and everything else astrology and tarot related, readings and gifts, then definitely check out my Etsy store. Links are below. I'm always releasing new things, so definitely check it out if you're interested. You can even just favorite the store just to show your support for free. Thanks for listening, and let's get back to the reading. So now it's time for moon. We have Perrie's moon in Aries and Zayn's moon in Virgo. Perrie's brush nature makes Zayn anxious, and Perrie doesn't understand Zayn's worrying nature. So potentially like maybe his sort of more analytical side would be a bit more like, looking into things too much, being a bit too worried about things, potentially that way. They support each other with their strengths, and Zayn's criticism makes Perrie feel discouraged. They need to adjust to each other on a daily level. I mean, they would have to, wouldn't they? Because I feel like, I'm not going to throw out any numbers, but I feel like a decent part of their relationship would have been when they are separated a more distance. So if they are have those moments when they are together, they would have to adjust surely. Perrie's moon overlaid in Zayn's first house. They both feel safe expressing their feelings, again with comfortably sharing secrets, that is there. Perrie brings out a sensitive Zayn, and Perrie feels immediately safe with Zayn. It's a tender and warm relationship. Zayn's moon overlaid in Perrie's 7th house. It's an accepting atmosphere, and Zayn feels secure with Perrie, which is interesting to see because I believe we did see Zayn wants more stability in this relationship, and overall we did see that this was a more secure relationship in the beginning. So potentially that is where he would have, felt, compelled to propose to Perrie. And we have seen those sort of more domestic marriage factors as well. They complement each other, we're seeing again, and they want to be together frequently, which this isn't great because, they're not that often together, are they? And it's like, you know, it kind of sucks that like when they are separated, it's not like a good thing. They're not handling it as well as they could, I guess you could say. Perrie likes Zayn's quirks, so there definitely seems to be an element of like appreciating the others like quirks and more like unconventional sides. Perrie finds Zayn enjoyable, and Perrie wants to support Zayn, which we did see Perrie finding Zayn enjoyable like in the beginning, where she sees him as like a source of pleasure. Zayn's moon conjunct Perrie's Mars. They both feel more creative together, and over time Zayn finds Perrie insensitive. Ew. So there definitely seems to be on Zayn's end, he feels like the relationship is deteriorating on his end anyway, because it's not great. It's an emotional relationship and they are involved in each other's lives. That's good. Sometimes Zayn wishes Perrie was more committed. This is interesting. This is interesting because we have already seen this before. Like, Zayn wants more commitment and everything, so interesting. Perrie can make Zayn feel insecure, and Zayn's desire for closeness makes Perrie feel limited. I wonder, considering what they do, I wonder if Perrie was a bit more like career oriented, so to speak. Maybe like she wanted the relationship, but you know, was also wanting her career at the same time, which fair enough. But I guess, you know, she was maybe okay with having a more long distance relationship and sort of making the relationship work while they're both working as well and touring and all of that. So potentially there was a bit of like disconnect there and disagreement there, with maybe Perrie wanted more like for her career as well. But maybe Zayn just didn't want that anymore, which we do kind of see like in present time as well. I mean, with Zayn anyway, because like he's like kind of like settled down, stopped the whole touring thing. You know, he's kind of like just a chill family guy now. Zayn's moon and Trine Perrie's Uranus. They both feel free to express themselves, and Perrie is more open around Zayn. Ideas of unconventional domestic setup bring them together. Yeah, there definitely seems to be an element like, you know, stepping outside of tradition and everything. They can cope with sudden changes together, and there's a level of unpredictability. Perrie feels safe around Zayn, which we're seeing again, which is nice. Like, we saw how she feels immediately safe with Zayn, so that's very cool. They enjoy talking about social issues, and mutual friends bring them together. Zayn's moon and Trine Perrie's Neptune. Zayn picks up on Perrie's needs, which we did see earlier how this relationship overall boosts Zayn's intuitiveness. They inspire the other, and art is a shared interest. They sense each other's feelings, and they share a sensitive and mystical worldview. They both uncover the other's blind spots, and it's a mystical meeting. So I feel like they surely would have met like on some X Factor or something like that, you know, through their connections. We saw that they met from mutual friends. So potentially it is that sort of element there, because I feel like it is a pretty mystical place to meet someone and become successful after that. So now it's time for Mercury. We have Perrie's Mercury in Cancer and Zayn's Mercury in Capricorn. These are sister polarity signs again. Conflict between Zayn's realism and Perrie's lack of it. I hate seeing this, because we did see, like, when we first saw the whole delusion and deception thing, like the way I interpreted that was like, maybe there was a bit of like delusion in terms of like, you know, on Perrie's end, you know, maybe she was, you know, blindsided by it because of a delusional deception she had, or the way, you know, Zayn was, you know, maybe deceiving her. So I don't like seeing this again. It seems like there is a real, like, I feel like maybe Perrie may be over, you know, doing the relationship in her own head, if that makes sense. And then Zayn is out here. It seems like on his end, we have seen a lot of deteriorating factors, so that's not great. Perrie finds Zayn snobby and selfish, and Zayn is frustrated with Perrie's impracticality. Perrie teaches Zayn how to consider feelings. Perrie's Mercury overlaid in Zayn's 5th house. Perrie is like the sun to Zayn, which is nice. I'm glad that they both seem to at least, like, you know, admire each other. Like, there does seem to be, like we did see earlier, like a magnetic attraction, and like they're drawn to each other in that magnetic way. I see that. Perrie makes Zayn's day, and they both encourage each other. It's not a boring relationship, and there is easy communication. Perrie's Mercury overlaid in Zayn's 12th house. Zayn has a sixth sense with Perrie, and Perrie may feel violated. Oh dear. I mean, I don't blame her. I feel like, you know, to be publicly like proposed to, I mean, not literally publicly, but you know, in the public eye and proposed to, and then, like, you know, knowingly, you know, things ended over a text message, like, I agree with her. You would feel violated, wouldn't you? Zayn may feel overwhelmed around Perrie, and intuition is strong. It seems to be very strong on Zayn's end. Can easily become a paranoid relationship. Yeah, I don't blame them, particularly with how we saw, like, you know, they need to, you know, not confuse reality and illusions. I feel like that would be, like, it seems like for these two, that is a big element in this relationship. Like, you know, the difference between what is going on between them, but also what could be, like, the media is saying about them and everything, and, like, what is true. Perrie's Mercury trines Zayn's Pluto. They have deep conversations, and there's a revealing of deep, dark secrets here, which we did see earlier. Like, they both comfortably share secrets, and they both feel quite comfortable with each other. Zayn helps Perrie open her mind, and there's a therapist-patient relationship. I don't know who would be the therapist and who would be the patient here, honestly. Like, I feel like it could be a bit of both, which is always the best, isn't it? They get to the bottom of matters, and they feel very close to each other. They resolve difficult issues together, which that is an element we have been seeing. I don't feel like I've commented enough on that. Like, they're able to, like, go through conflict together, be cooperative together. Perrie is fascinated with Zayn's depth, and Zayn appreciates Perrie's humor and easygoing nature, which I feel like this could definitely be something, like, the thing you start loving about the person is what you end up hating about them. Because it seems like, you know, Zayn is not exactly, like, you know, really appreciative of, like, of Perrie's more, like, fun side, so to speak, or, like, her lack of, like, realism, rationality, and all of that. Zayn's Mercury trine Perrie's Mars. Perrie stimulates Zayn's mind, and Perrie energizes Zayn again with the energizing. Perrie helps Zayn develop his ideas, and there's a healthy intellectual competition. Zayn teaches Perrie how to be more reasonable, so there definitely seems to be an element, like, Zayn seems to want to, like, ground Perrie. It seems like they both move forward in this relationship and they work well together. I mean, moving forward literally could be, I don't know how much of their, like, you know, relationship contributed to the success, because I feel like in their own way they are quite successful without the other. You know, it's not like they're separated and suddenly, like, you know, things dwindled because they needed the other. But, you know, I mean, it doesn't hurt, does it? Zayn helps Perrie to problem solve, and they enjoy debating together, and Perrie takes Zayn's words personally. Zayn's Mercury conjunct Perrie's Uranus. Perrie challenges Zayn's way of thinking, and they both enjoy experimenting. They come up with original ideas together, so there definitely seems to be a strong, like, creative element to these two, like, creating together and all of that, which is nice. I don't believe they ever actually, like, did anything together, like, publicly on some project or whatever. They are impulsive together and discover new ways of seeing the world together. They are creative together, and Zayn truly understands Perrie's originality. They grow intellectually together, and they share an interest in unusual topics. They casually talk about taboos, and they find uncommon solutions to problems. This seems to be, like, I feel like unconventionality seems to be quite a strong theme in this relationship. Zayn's Mercury conjunct Perrie's Neptune. Spirituality is prioritized, which we are definitely seeing, especially on Zayn's end. It's a telepathic-like connection, and Zayn helps Perrie turn her dreams into reality. That's nice. It seems like he really, like, supports her and everything and wants to help her creatively and, like, sort of express her original thoughts. They have a habit of telling the other what they want to hear. I don't like seeing this, or, you know, it's just annoying on Zayn's end, really. There's deceptive and exaggerative communication, yet deceiving is an issue here. And just considering everything, I feel like this would be more on Zayn's end, particularly with how we have been seeing, you know, that, you know, on Zayn's end, this relationship deteriorated for him. We haven't seen Perrie like that be mutual on Perrie's end. Zayn finds Perrie confusing, and it's hard to talk about practical matters. Agreed. They are compassionate towards each other. So now it's time for Venus. We have Perrie's Venus in Gemini and Zayn's Venus in Pisces. These are both mutable signs. They are attracted to their differences. That also is a strong element here. They share simple approaches to life, and it's an inconsistent but forgiving relationship. I mean, yeah, inconsistent in terms of, like, you know, unpredictability and travel and all of that. They meet each other's needs, and Perrie has a hard time understanding Zayn. Yeah, I'm not surprised we saw earlier like misunderstandings. Yeah, it seems like they want to, but they can't like wrap their heads around each other, if that makes sense. Perry's Venus overlaid in Zayn's third house. Perry feels more comfortable around Zayn, and Perry makes Zayn happy. Perry sees Zayn as easily approachable, and they are good friends. So there definitely seems to be an element on like Perry's end. I feel like just immediate comfort with Zayn, like very safe with him, sees him as very approachable. There's easy and natural communication, and they trust each other. Zayn's Venus overlaid in Perry's first house. Zayn is attracted to Perry, and Zayn enjoys being seen with Perry. Interesting. Perry is flattered by Zayn, and Zayn doesn't pay attention to the regular Perry. This I don't like, because, you know, we saw the whole, it seems to be an element of like, you know, reality and illusions. I didn't really consider, you know, the reality of them as a person, and also the illusion of them as like, you know, this sort of public persona. It sucks. Perry over time may not appreciate this shallow admiration. Their Venus signs are square together, so they approach love and domestic life in different ways, and they are attracted to the differences. Differences really are a big element here, which isn't great. Differences become more obvious over time. Yeah, I don't like it, because it seems like their differences are actually like different. That's not the right way to put it. It seems like it actually like, you know, hinders their relationship. It's not like it doesn't seem to be a whole lot of like complementary differences where they can work around it, you know. Decision making together is complicated. I can imagine it would be on the more complicated side, because it's not like they're together to do anything. And, you know, if it comes to, I don't know, like, you know, finding a home together, because they were quite serious with things like that, it's like, where do you, because like, you know, you're never there together like in the first place, you know, why would you do things like that? I feel like a lot of sort of normal decision making would be a bit complicated for these two. Neither know how to please the other, and they have different social needs. They have different social backgrounds, which we touched on earlier. So as far as I know, like obviously they're both British, but I'm not sure about Perry. I know, like, you know, Zayn has, I believe, like a mixed background, you know, I think Pakistani father, British mother. So he has that. I'm not sure about Perry though, if she has anywhere specifically she's from, but I mean, obviously that is there. And also, I guess, like considering like British culture and like the whole class system, that, you know, I'm not sure where they would, you know, be there, but, you know, that is potentially something as well. It's a difficult long-term relationship, and arguments over money easily occur. Ability to have an honest and balanced relationship. I feel like they have the ability. You know, deep down, maybe, I just feel like it wasn't meant to be though. They both need to learn to be open. Zayn's Venus opposite Perry's Mars. Zayn may become manipulative to try to get Perry to prove her feelings. Zayn's weird here. I'm not really the big fan of him in this relationship, honestly. Desire for each other will always be there, and Zayn feels he gives more than he gets. Interesting. Zayn sees Perry as harsh, which we did see, like, you know, he sees her as a bit more like harsh and brash, as we have seen earlier. Perry sees Zayn as lacking substance, and Perry may come onto Zayn too strong. Interesting, which I feel like kind of adds up. If she feels immediately safe with Zayn and sees him as easily approachable, I imagine it would be in that sort of way where she may come off as being a bit strong. So now it's time for Mars. We have Perry's Mars in Virgo and Zayn's Mars in Cancer. Zayn avoids confrontation with Perry. Are you kidding me? That's not great. Like, that's actually bad. Like, considering how things transpired and what we have seen in this reading, that's so bad. Zayn is protective of Perry, and Zayn gets hurt by Perry's critical tendencies. Interesting. Perry gets frustrated with Zayn, and Perry has difficulty understanding Zayn. Yeah, the difficulty understanding, we've seen that already. Perry's Mars overlaid in Zayn's 7th house. Perry speeds up the relationship. Okay. This is a bit sad as well. Like, considering, I mean, you know, we just saw like she comes onto Zayn a bit too strong and speeding up the relationship. I feel like the whole matter of like, you know, the whole delusion and deception thing we've been kind of touching on, like when it comes to, you know, how they see the relationship. I feel like Perrie definitely had an idea of Zayn that was not reality. Perrie is calmer around Zayn, and Perrie wants to please Zayn. They enjoy spending time together, which I don't doubt. Zayn's Mars overlaid in Perrie's 6th house. Zayn energizes Perrie, we're seeing again, and they exercise together. Or, you know, this could also be indicative of doing some kind of other like health activities together, your physical health. Zayn's Mars overlaid in Perrie's 6th house. Zayn energizes Perrie, we're seeing again, and they are relaxed and calmer around the other. Zayn is flustered around Perrie, and Perrie can see through Zayn. So that whole like intuition thing where they are quite intuitive of each other and like perceive each other and all of that, you know, that seems to be a very strong factor here. Zayn's Mars conjunct Perrie's Uranus. Zayn needs to learn not to take Perrie's actions personally. I wonder where, maybe like a more criticism of like his sort of like, you know, rationality and all of that. They have frequent arguments. Zayn's Mars opposite Perrie's Neptune. Opposite approaches to taking risks, and they argue about the differences between their wants. Here, I see this, like we have seen like earlier a bit more. It seems like Zayn wants to sort of settle down, have a more secure lifestyle. And this reading seems to reflect that Perrie, you know, wants to keep her career, which, you know, fair enough. But Zayn doesn't want that, you know, in terms of like, you know, them both having a sort of more like, you know, touring career, you know, more about stability and like settling down, it seems like. So that was the final aspect, bringing us to the end of the reading. If you are still watching, please share your thoughts below. I would be very curious to see what you guys have to say about this one, if you interpret it any differently. It is definitely interesting to see how things you know, in this reading, I feel like it really reflected how things potentially have transpired for these two. If you have made it this far, please consider subscribing for more. I post these weekly. Besides that, give this video a like, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!